taxes in your MMO? That's just what I want, to try and avoid excessive HOAs, but in a video game as opposed to real life. That sounds like a great time.
Listen, the gardening's beautiful outside, but you can't paint your house pink. It's a little rough.
Greetings and welcome back. This is Nexus Gaming News, recorded on Tuesday, September 28th. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, here as always with Kyle Ferguson. And that's it. The wait is over. This wait anyway, for the next big budget MMO. Amazon Game Studios' New World is out today. As an old school WoW nerd that has since moved on to Final Fantasy XIV, Kyle, how are you feeling about this shiny new human-only MMO?
Well, that's complaint number one, is too many humans. Nothing but humans. Historical armors.
That's my favorite sequel to Too Human, forgotten game that I enjoyed.
Historical armors are neat, but when you mix and match them, they look rather doofy. There's some weirdness going on in this thing. But ultimately, it's very, very exciting for a lot of people because they've lost their World of Warcraft home. People are very hungry for something to be a part of. I think that's really important, particularly in this day and age where we all feel very isolated in our own homes. We want to be part of guilds and factions and go home and feel like you're in that club. And New World, out of the box, seems like it's going to provide that with a one-time purchase, with no subscription. And
is that a big selling point for you? It's weird, right? Because WoW kind of set that precedent, and for more than a decade, tons of studios followed suit. And then we kind of got away from the subscription method, but now we're also sort of back to it, because you can play most of the most popular MMOs right now without a subscription. But if you want the full experience, looking at you, ESO, looking at you, Final Fantasy XIV, you still need to pony up every month.
Listen, I've listened to too many people go on and on about Guild Wars for years. No subscription is a very big deal to a lot of people. It is a high selling point. So that's why I live with it.
That's fair, but no, I legitimately don't know, like, if that's a selling point for you or not. Like, do you care?
Ultimately, it determines how much time I'm going to spend in the game and what my focus on it is. So you mentioned that I'm playing Final Fantasy XIV right now. It's true. However, I'm currently on the free trial, so there's no monthly fee for me while I make my way through the base game and the first expansion. It's a lot of content. I think if you did everything, including the raids, which you can do because they get, scaled down for you at your level if you want, it's like 200 hours of content if I really want to have at it. And so right now, I'm just kind of leisurely making my way through that game. I put different effort into a subscription game. I expect you to at least cover one game's worth of content for me per month. When I buy a $15 Steam game, what am I looking at? 30 hours, perhaps? That's pretty generous. Maybe 15. Maybe 15.
Depends on the game.
Yeah. But
at the end of the day,
a $15 Steam game that's been in early access for 2 years, and what have you. I'm expecting a certain amount of content out of that. So I treat them differently.
That's fair. I don't think as much about it, unless we're starting to get real expensive. Like, the only time I start to hesitate is like, do I need peripherals for this game? That's why I don't play flight simulators or mech commanders, or why I do play more racing games, because I did decide to go down that peripheral route. So now I'm set up for it. But when it comes to, I don't know, subscriptions and whatnot, yeah, I don't know. I definitely try and stay on top of it, and I definitely try to be good about canceling subscriptions that I'm not using. I was playing ESO there for a hot second, and I made sure to get in there and cancel it the second I was just like, I'm done for now. For an extra month, and felt kind of bad about it. That's really as far as it goes. So for me, it's more, I think, of a precedent setter. If you've got yourself a sub on your MMO, I expect a certain amount of regular content updates, and if you don't, I kind of go, are you going to get bored quick? Are you not going to have a lot of updates?
That's the interesting question here, because we're dealing with a cash cow of the likes we've never seen before. We've got things like Fortnite in the world, which supplies Epic Games with the added value of just giving away free games constantly. Now, some of them are games you've never heard of. Sometimes you get a real gem. Sometimes you get a brand spanking new game, particularly when the service first came out with the free games on the Epic Gaming Store. That's, of course, all sponsored by Fortnite. That money, and as well as the engine and all, but money flows like water from Fortnite for John Wick and Loki and everything else they get in there.
It's smart marketing, right? They're trying to take the fight to Steam. They're trying to shore up the Epic Store as a contender, and they're absolutely leveraging the runaway success of Fortnite for that reason. But we don't need to deal with that with New World. You can buy that. You can buy that stuff on Steam.
Hey, no, I'm saying that we have an even bigger cash cow, and that's the endless boxes and toilet paper that people purchase in a modern era. There's no reason why Amazon Gaming Studios would ever have trouble funding a video game.
I mean, it's to me, Amazon is such an absolute monolith that a clear through line for what funds what is impossible to draw.
It is something that is bizarre to talk about, though, in this current state of gaming, where we're all becoming a little more aware of our purchases, trying to smartly support different companies and developers. And here comes a horde of World of Warcraft players saying, I'm done with your corrupt ways. I'm going to Amazon.
Yes, the most uncorrupt, great treatment of their employees.
Clearly.
Monolithic megacorp the world has ever seen.
It's a perfect match for everyone looking for a conscious free gaming experience. And that is a little bit of, the trouble with New World here, is it is pulling from a conquering colonial root style that can be a little abrasive. Now, of course, every game has war. I mean, it's World of Warcraft, and you're going to cut down trees and destroy nature. But in New World, the overall theme setting is that nature's really mad at you because you won't stop cutting down the trees, and because people continue to invade and plunder this land as you set up giant forts and well, make campfires. It's a fascinating combination of the MMOs we know and almost something Valheim-y, to use a modern idea.
It has some survival aspects, I think, is the light. It's survival light is a good way to put it. I mean, even going to Minecraft, if you've ever played a game where you get to collect things and then instantly build your weapon with not too much fuss, you kind of know what it's like to build your first weapon in New World. And
that even adapts more modern ideas from MMOs, such as there are no classes, which is interesting. So instead, you show up on the shores of New World. The place has a fantasy name. You show up on the shores of New World.
Aeternium?
Yeah.
I think, like, it's one of those AE names that always throws me for a pronunciation loop.
It's very Marvel, very Unobtainium, Avatar-y. Like, it's the New World kind of thing.
Oh, Aeternum. You end up with no I in there.
You show up with just a sword, and the more you use that sword, like kind of a Skyrim style, the more you are going to level aspects that would give you abilities with that sword. So a spinning attack, or maybe a lunge, or something along those lines. You equip a shield, you slowly unlock more shield-like abilities. If you equip a staff, based on if it's a fire staff or a healy staff, you become a mage or a healer type. And that's very, Jobs kind of Final Fantasy in that way. The weapon you equip determines what abilities you're going to use. But I'd say it's even more down that line of Dark Souls, where you are going to go through your different weapons. You might say, the sword, I'm not really feeling it. You craft your first bow. Okay, this bow has certain power attacks, and I like this style. I keep playing with that, and now I'm going to level up that aspect. I'll put my points, and it's actually like a Diablo 2, like old school RPG point system, where you go strength, and put your points into individual attributes and level up yourself that way. There's dodging, there's active blocking, kind of a parry system. So it's so painful, I think is the best word, to sit here and review a game and call it Dark Souls-like. But it does definitely pull from that more modern, old school RPG aesthetic that we've come to be experienced with.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you could just kind of call it an action-based MMO as opposed to a tab targeting-based MMO. But that takes many different forms, and that's where I see the greatest similarity to something like Valheim, because while Valheim was not an MMO, it certainly had MMO-esque trappings. And having played a ton of that very recently, it's fresh in my mind. When I went and got into the New World beta and gave it a shot, the combat very much reminded me of that.
Oh,
so
tell me about it. How was it?
Yeah, did you not know I played? Yeah, I played the beta.
I had no idea.
Yeah, no, I've got an dude. We're recording this like the first morning of New World being up. Like I've got plans today. I'm gonna get in there and get my colonial toes wet.
Are you now?
As it were? Yeah. I don't expect this. I don't expect this to become a main MMO for me, at least not at the moment. As aesthetically, like you mentioned, like its colonial roots, and it seemed like you were starting to get into the kind of the political concern ramification side of that, or social consciousness side of that. To me, it's just all about the aesthetics and the art direction. I think going with that kind of Spanish conquistador look is very unique, but not really one that really resonates for me. It's not like my brand of historic coolness that really resonates with me, but it's unique enough. Like it doesn't really look like anything that is currently out on the MMO field. So I do think for better or for worse, it really sets itself apart visually speaking.
Oh, I wasn't being I was being cute about are you now as in do you like it? I was more expressing are you actually going to get in the game here? Because currently the different servers say there's average wait times of 7 hours, 22 hours, 16 hours, 36 hours, 140 hours on one called Core in EU. The queues are immense.
Listen, dude, they're out there. They're sponsoring some streamers. There's some big names getting paid to play. They're probably bringing people with them to specific servers. That stuff happens.
Yeah, well, I guess go with no, we'd have to find a US server for you here.
Let me start on the deadest server on day one.
Here you go. Sitara. Sitara's the place for you.
All right. If I want to play today, Sitara's where I'm going, I guess.
No, wait. We got 9 minutes. 9 minutes on Kantar.
Good to know. It's day one. It's a new MMO. We're all hungry. We've already talked about what we've characterized as a mass exodus from World of Warcraft on this very show. Go find our most recent Final Fantasy 14 episode for that. But yeah, I like it enough. I'm not overly smitten, but it is unique enough within the MMO trappings to make me want to spend a little bit more time with it. I was interested enough in my time with the beta to want to give it an honest shake as a live game with people making permanent progress. I've never been a huge beta player when it comes to MMOs. I like MMOs. I've spent an absolute ton of time in World of Warcraft, playing it off and on since 2005. But I tend to avoid betas and MMOs because I feel like I'm spoiling a grindy experience for myself. And I've always been like, why would I want to do that? Not keep my progress. Most MMOs are a grind. I like to try and minimize burnout as much as possible. So got in, I think I got to like level 5, built a bow, kind of saw what the crafting was all about, saw what the combat was all about, and I was like, cool, that's enough. I'm interested enough to pre-order this game and try and play it when it goes live, and that's where I'm at.
The part that would really speak to me and something I wanted to do for a long time in an MMO, going back all the way to Lineage 2, if anyone's familiar with that game. Invasions, a PvE defense of your fort where you fight waves of enemies, including the Void Destroyer, which is a giant flying head. You defeat these enemies, therefore you get to keep your fort that your faction, your guild, basically has taken. And I think that's an awesome bit of content. That
does sound cool. I'm into that. That sounds a little winter graspy to me as a WoW player, and that was like my favorite PvP thing in WoW ever.
Yes, but it also has the trappings of what was the horrible island in Legion, wasn't it?
Legion? Was it PvP?
Yeah. Like an island chain.
Oh, I'm thinking of Tol Barad, but that was Cataclysm. You're thinking of... Oh, it started with an A.
Yeah, it did. It did. You're with me. And maybe we just let it go at that.
Yeah, I'm forgetting I'm frantically Googling this in the background and coming up blank. I hated it and
Everyone
didn't engage with it. And Joss played the crap out of it until she hated it. Azuna!
Yes, there you go.
Oh wait, no, that's a zone.
Damn.
That's a zone. Damn. Yep, I give up. Leave a comment below. Write in. Let us know the bad PvP zone that I've forgotten the name of it.
But that's what I'm talking.
Legion.
Like these invasions on paper are such a cool idea, and when you see that Void Destroyer coming over the hill, like you're like, oh, that's cool. But you know what actually happens? You spend 30 minutes sitting in a turret, shooting enemies because no one else is in the turret because everyone wants to be down on the level using their actual abilities and their weapons and stuff. And it's a grind. It looks on paper and in your mind's eye, it's a really cool idea. But in actual execution, you've seen things like this 100 times before.
Yeah, it also sounds like there's a bit of a horde mode thing going on. There's like a PvE defense-based kind of stronghold mode. Didn't get a chance to see that in the beta, but I love anything that can even be misconstrued as a horde mode historically.
Yeah.
So never been a huge PvP player in MMOs except for maybe the Wrath of the Lich King era World of Warcraft. I was pretty into it then, played a ton of it. But that was kind of the beginning and the end of me being into PvP and MMOs. I'm much more of a it's like 50% social space, 50% PvE for me if I'm really, really into an MMO.
And I do think PvP will be a little better in this game just because of the active parrying and dodging. There's going to be more ways to express yourself on the field rather than just gear and whatever layout you have, kind of talents you've picked.
Now I'm just thinking about all the times I've ever experienced a latency spike in an MMO and how annoying that's going to be with the real-time combat system.
And when you go by like tips and tricks, day one tips and tricks videos and all this sort of thing, one of the first things they say is look at the server with heavy scrutiny. You want something as close to you as possible because we're going to be dodging and parrying in this game. You do not want to have any latency when it comes to New World.
Yeah, you start to have a crossover concerns with fighting games of all the weirdest things we could reference while talking about an MMO. But here we are.
There's also going to be things like you have your war mode, which is very much like we got to know it in BFA. You basically equip your flag, and you are now set up to be in a PvP world. You get some bonus XP if you go through it, but otherwise you can turn it off and on freely. You have expeditions. These are basically your dungeons, where you solve puzzles and defeat bosses. And they made that mistake. They made the mistake of adding puzzles, Garrett. We all know this from Anthem. We know this from every MMO that ever had them. It's great day one for all of 6 hours until everybody runs in front of you and solves the puzzle for you.
That is fair.
It's weird to see like so many pitfalls happening throughout this game.
It's something that I thought Destiny kind of did well. Their kind of out in the world puzzles were, for the most part, much more simple, but they usually led to some sort of, large in-world event that you would want multiple people around for anyway. So solving the puzzle is just a small piece of getting specific events or specific kind of triggers within an event to occur, if that makes more sense. It's something I really, really liked in Destiny.
Well, and you're talking out in the world too, which is very different. Like a jumping puzzle, for instance, isn't stopping anybody. There are tons of jumping challenges in Final Fantasy. It's one of the more kind of streamed aspects of the game because it's so frustrating for people. But when I'd be going through Draenor and I'd find a rope that I'd leap myself up and then jump 3 times over to a chest, if there was 5 people in front of me doing the exact same thing, the jump was still my control. I had to perform it myself, so I didn't feel cheated seeing someone else perform that jump before I got to it. But it is just, it's interesting to see them launch with so many cool ideas, yet so many things that are just drastic pitfalls. And I think for me, the real one that kind of hits me strong is this idea that they made an invasion mode. How cool is that? And every stream I find is just people sitting in a turret. Vehicles, man. Vehicles.
Everyone's favorite part of Wrath of the Lich King PvP.
Exactly. Everyone's favorite part of seeing their character, leveling up their character to have it all nullified because you're behind a cannon. It really is a pretty heavy disappointment.
This is where, again, though, I'm going to invoke Wintergrass from Wrath of the Lich King era World of Warcraft to defend this and say I liked it. I liked it because as the strongholds were encroached upon, turret season was over. Like once the walls were broken and they were into like the courtyard, get off the turrets, get into, hand-to-hand PvP. There was that they found I always enjoyed that part of it because they found a good kind of like stages that naturally progressed based on the PvP at hand. And not everyone had to be on turrets. So that's what it would come down to. I haven't watched any streams, so if that's what you're seeing, that does sound a little bummerific, to borrow one of your favorite phrases. But yeah, it's day one, maybe. I don't.
It'll go two ways.
If you see a turret and that is like no go town, you do you.
Either the turret is completely useless, which is probably the preferred, or it's all important and the Reddit's full of nothing but people screaming, "Why don't people get in turrets?" And then that's the end of it. But there are other aspects to this game that are in a world, in an MMO, you want to live in it and you want to really craft an experience for your friends. And I do think that the company system that are 100-player groups where you choose an actual area of the map to set up in and take control of that fort and even set taxes for it is a rather interesting idea. And I do think it'll lend itself to people really picking and choosing where they want their hubs to be, where they want to put their 3 custom houses that you basically use as waypoints and teleport stations for yourself. And that could really lend to something, another phrase I hate, living and breathing, if you will.
Really? Because I just hate the word taxes. Yeah, so for you to utter it in the same sentence as is interesting to me.
Yeah, a fun gaming experience, but don't forget to find a good place to put your first house because you'll be worried about the taxation rate in that area.
Just as someone who, I'm coming up on 5 years removed from my first house shopping experience. That's just what I want, to try and avoid excessive HOAs, but in a video game as opposed to real life. That sounds like a great time.
Listen, the gardening's beautiful outside, but you can't paint your house pink. It's a little rough, but at least there's
yes,
a pool
it's an extra $1,000 a month, but we mow your grass for you and we include cable, which at most would cost less than $200.
Have you seen?
Geez, thanks.
Have you seen the pictures of our lounge? It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
We have a communal pool that we don't clean enough. Enjoy.
There's all sorts of crafting to do as well. There is a main story quest, as many with Final Fantasy will be familiar. You go about getting your Azoth staff, which is how you eventually get into sealing corrupted breaches, which sounds very much like a daily sort of world sort of quest thing going on, and also how you unlock multiple of the late game expeditions. However, on release here, it is seeming like your late game activities will be more geared towards that PvP side, if this game is actually interesting you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I tease somewhat with the taxes side of, someone who I do enjoy like city building and park building sims. There is a world where income in video games is interesting to me. I'm just so not used to it in an MMO setting that it does just sound a little dull to me.
It's been done before, and there are a lot of games that are talking about doing this thing that still haven't come out yet. And I think New World, while it might have some older trappings, is trying to push the envelope before these others are like Ashes of Creation. There are some really, really cool MMOs that have just been in betas and alphas forever and are almost exclusively funded by whales at this point, very much like Star Citizen is. A game you may never see, but some 2,000 people are playing it.
Yeah. it's an interesting place right now, with Final Fantasy sitting on top, and having already usurped World of Warcraft. But there's just I still see this sense of open-mindedness within MMO fans in general, like for the first real time since WoW's dominance struck over a decade ago.
Well, and looking at the stats on something like most played MMOs, your MMO populations, World of Warcraft could still have this huge comeback. I mean, when we look at total players over the life of the game that have invested in it, we're looking at 116 million players who could be playing World of Warcraft at some point were invested in some degree to have purchased. Now down to 1 million players. Final Fantasy overtaking that with close to 3 million. Now,
it's worth mentioning too. This is all estimated. Forget what's the website called? MMOpopulation.com.
Yeah,
it's a cool website. But no MMO studio is 100% transparent with their player numbers. So all of this is estimated.
Right. Some of it comes from armories. Some of it comes from APIs exclusive to PvP. It's very messy. Right now, we do see New World, of course, at the 8th slot. However, the activity score, which is the number of players compared to the number of purchasers, is very high. Naturally, it makes sense. Day one here, and this is likely to go up. I'm very curious to see if it'll even overtake things like Destiny, which holds that number 4 spot.
Yeah, I'm with you on World of Warcraft. I think it has a chance to make a comeback, and it seems like they're making some fun sounding moves. As someone who's not actively playing right now, from the outside looking in, it looks like they're finally just kind of like, let's loosen up, let's stop being so rigid, and let's just try and find the fun again.
They're fixing problems that they made themselves. So until they change that, probably next expansion, till they can prove that they are going to start systems that aren't aggressively broken in the first place, this is just them cleaning up the room after you told them to. Like, they didn't do it themselves.
If you're fixing a problem in a video game, a problem in a video game was made.
It's true.
That's how problems in created products work.
It's true.
So I'm just like, I mean, it is what it is. This is different because they're not being dogmatic in their response. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, so you're on the wait and see camp for New World, it sounds like?
Absolutely. It sells a lot. This idea of the Dark Souls style combat, it's definitely, it's ringing all the right bells for me. I'm looking at it and saying, oh yeah, you got it all, don't you? Which means you're hiding something. We'll see. I think the crafting is fantastic. Everyone cutting down trees all the time, mining all the time. I don't got a problem with that. I love Valheim. I don't want an entire hillside though covered in camps. I don't want to go to my first quest giver and not be able to find them. So this is very much, particularly with the crafting involved, I ain't fighting people for trees in a place called the New World. So I'm going to give it a month, let them get out of the starting zones, and then maybe I'll see if I can get a bow.
I kind of love those day one weirdnesses that pop up in new MMOs. So I would love to see a hillside covered in campfires. So I'll let you know how it goes if I get in today. That sounds good to you. No. Anyways, I think it's going to wrap it up for our discussion today about New World. Let us know how it's going for you, everybody. If you want to email in because you're listening on podcasts, it's itncast@gmail.com. If you're watching on YouTube, just leave a comment below. Let us know how did day one New World go for you? And I would definitely love to know, like, give me some information on where you stood. Were you hyped going in? Were you skeptical going in? Where did you stand when you when you engaged in New World in this opening week, and how has the launch week landed for you? Leave a comment below or write in. Other than that, you can find Kyle on Twitter at Kyle Ferguson. I'm at Garrett Art. Please like and subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on podcast, so that you get our next Nexus Gaming news. And until next time, good luck and have fun, everyone.